There are moments in life when a single action changes everything, not over years, not through endless repetition, but in an instant. That is the promise you are about to hear, that one sound, released only once, can alter the vibration of your entire field forever. It sounds impossible, almost outrageous, but the truth is, you've already felt glimpses of it before. That sudden wave of goosebumps that rises for no reason, the silence that falls in a room just before something sacred happens, the way your body responds to a tone before your mind even understands the words. These are not accidents. They are hints of a hidden vibrational code that has been waiting to be remembered. So ask yourself, why do so many spiritual techniques promise transformation, only to fade as soon as you leave the meditation cushion or close the book? Why do affirmations wear thin? Why do rituals collapse back into habit? Could it be because the real key is not in thought at all, but in sound, a sound older than language, one that doesn't speak to the mind but directly to the field? This is where the journey begins, with awe, with wonder, with the possibility that what you are about to discover is not another method to try and fail, but the original code itself, the one sound that doesn't just echo in the air but reorganizes your very vibration. Do it once, and you will never be the same. From the very first moments of your life, something began shaping you in ways you never noticed. You came into the world as pure vibration, open, expanding, radiating trust in the flow of existence. But almost immediately, the people around you, without even realizing it, began writing codes into your field. It didn't look like programming. It looked like love, like education, like simple advice from those who believed they were guiding you. Yet every word, every look, every rushed gesture carried a frequency that slowly began to compress who you really were. Think back to the messages you heard as a child. Stop crying. Life is hard. You have to work 3 times harder than anyone else if you want to succeed. At first, they sound harmless, just bits of guidance repeated by well-meaning parents or teachers. But underneath, they carried vibrations of fear, scarcity, and control. These weren't just sentences, they were energetic imprints, invisible marks placed into your nervous system before you were even old enough to question them. It wasn't only words, it was the tone of voice when someone snapped at you, the impatient sigh of an adult too busy to listen, the coldness of a touch withheld, the rush of a household when no one ever slowed down. As children, we don't filter any of it. Our field is wide open, and what enters gets recorded deeply. Over time, that openness turns into weight. What was once a natural expansion becomes a tightening, a folding in on yourself. This is why anxiety never belonged to you in the first place. Scarcity wasn't your essence either. These were programs handed down from generation to generation, like hand-me-down clothes that never really fit, but you wore anyway because you didn't know you had a choice. The cruelest part is how invisible it feels. You don't recognize it as foreign. You come to believe this compressed way of being is simply who you are. Modern science even confirms what ancient teachers knew. Neuroscience shows that when we repeat heavy emotions, fear, guilt, self-criticism, they carve tracks in the brain and lock the body into survival mode. The autonomic nervous system gets stuck on high alert. The heart races, digestion slows, sleep becomes restless, immunity weakens, your mind runs in circles, repeating the same old patterns, while your energy retracts and life itself feels like an endless cycle of reacting, coping, surviving. So when you've tried to meditate, or affirm something positive, or chase after a new practice, and wondered why it didn't last, it isn't because you failed, it's because the old program was still running underneath. The mind asked for change, but the vibration kept repeating the same commands it learned long ago. And here is where compassion enters. Nothing is broken in you, nothing is missing. What you've experienced isn't evidence of weakness. It's evidence of a program that was installed before you had the power to say no. Once you see it as programming, you realize something powerful. What was written can be rewritten. What was imposed can be reversed. Your original frequency has always been here, waiting beneath the noise, waiting for the moment you choose to return. That is the journey you are stepping into now. Not a battle against yourself, not a struggle to fix what isn't working, but a gentle remembrance of what has been hidden under layers of inherited vibration. The truth is simple. You are not the problem. You are the possibility, and once you uncover the code, everything begins to change. There comes a moment when all the weight of old programming no longer holds the same authority it once did. Thoth spoke of this as the center of reversal, a hidden axis within your field, where the old codes begin to dissolve and the original frequency starts to return. It isn't a temple you must travel to. It isn't a ritual that requires years of study. This center is closer than your own skin. It lives in the present moment, inside the very breath, moving in and out of your body. Most of us assume change begins in the mind. We try to think new thoughts, rehearse positive phrases, repeat affirmations over and over. But Thoth's teaching was a correction to this. He said the reversal doesn't begin with thought at all. Thought is too entangled with the program, too quick to recycle the same patterns. Instead, the doorway is sound. The vibration carried in a single tone has the power to intercept the program at its root and start to reorganize the field from the inside out. Imagine it like this. Your life is a song that has been played slightly out of tune for years. You've tried adjusting the lyrics, even humming louder to cover the discord, but the melody still feels wrong. Then, one note, sung from the right place, resets the entire song. The off-key background dissolves, and the true harmony re-emerges. That's the power of the center of reversal. It's not about effort. It's about alignment with the one vibration that carries the original code. This is why ancient initiates guarded their chants with such care. They knew it wasn't the complexity of the ritual that mattered, but the state of presence from which the sound was born. When you enter this state, what the ancients called radical presence, you touch the axis of your field, where density begins to unravel. It's the moment of activation, a pivot point where the downward spiral stops and an upward current begins. And you don't need to force it. The center of reversal reveals itself in stillness, when the body softens, when the breath slows, when awareness stops chasing and simply listens. In that silence, sound emerges, not as noise, but as living vibration. That vibration doesn't only move outward, it passes through you first, reshaping every cell before it ever touches the air. This is why the promise of do this once is not exaggeration. It points to a single sound, born from the right state, that reorganizes everything. But it isn't about saying the word correctly or loudly. It's about reaching that inner axis, that center of reversal, and letting the vibration rise from there. Once you find it, you'll know. The field itself responds. Your body registers it in heat, in release, in a sudden lightness. The reversal is not a metaphor. It's an actual reorientation of energy, away from the old programming, back toward the frequency you carried at the beginning. And when you arrive at that axis, you'll understand why. Thoth insisted, the key is not thought, but sound. The moment you hear it, the moment you let it emerge from within, you step into the beginning of a new field. What if every word you spoke was more than sound? What if each syllable carried a signature that touched reality before your mind even finished forming the sentence? This is what the ancients knew, and what modern science is only beginning to rediscover. Every vibration you release, every phrase you utter, doesn't just vanish into the air. It imprints itself on your energy field first, then echoes outward, shaping the world around you. We've all felt it. Someone speaks a truth with such sincerity that you feel chills before you even process their words. Or someone throws a cruel remark, and your stomach tightens instantly, as if the body understood the vibration before the brain could analyze the meaning. This is not imagination. It's evidence that sound bypasses logic and speaks directly to the field. The energy hears before the mind translates. Thoth taught that before there was form, there was sound. Not sound as random noise, but ordered vibration. He called it intelligent frequency. And thousands of years later, scientists stumbled into the same truth through the study of cymatics. They placed fine particles on a vibrating plate, played specific tones, and watched in awe as the grains danced into perfect geometry circles, mandalas, spirals. Shift the tone, and the pattern dissolved back into chaos. Change it again, and new order appeared. This is sound alchemy, not as metaphor, but as visible proof. If a single frequency can arrange sound into symmetry, what do you imagine your voice does to the living cells that vibrate inside you? Every phrase becomes an instruction. Words of fear and doubt crystallize density into your field. Words of truth and love reorganize it into coherence. The choice of sound becomes the choice of reality itself. This is why Hermetic initiates treated sound as sacred fire. They didn't speak carelessly, because they knew each vibration coded the field. They practiced sound alchemy, not with potions or metals, but with breath, tone, and intention. They understood that creation is not only in the hands of the divine, it passes through every voice, every chant, every whisper, and here is where revelation enters. You realize your life is already filled with incantations, only most of them are unconscious. Complaints, self-criticism, casual negativity. These are spells spoken without awareness, shaping fields of limitation, but the same mouth can release frequencies that heal, soothe, and realign. When words arise from the center rather than the mask, the sound carries living frequency, reorganizing not just your own energy, but the environment around you. Modern neuroscience and ancient Hermeticism meet here. One proves how repeated emotions carve neurological pathways, while the other reveals how sound can rewrite them. Together, they echo the same truth. Vibration is the architect of reality. This is the forgotten law, the secret of Hermetic sound. Alchemy. Your voice is not only expression, it is creation. So pause for a moment and imagine, what patterns have your words been weaving in your field without you realizing it? What architecture of sound have you been building in silence? When you understand that every syllable shapes reality, you begin to see why one true sound, born from presence, can change everything. Long before the written word, long before temples were carved in stone, there was a sound whispered through the lineages of those who remembered. They called it Ra, not a name, not a god, in the way we later imagined, but a vibration, the first breath that carried the original pattern of life itself. In the Hermetic records, Ra is described as the primordial sound, a note so pure that it does not pass through the mind. It is not pronounced like a word, it is sung by the field. When you touch this sound, you are not simply making noise. You are aligning with the frequency that underlies creation. The ancients believed this vibration was the key to reorganizing the human energy field back to its uncorrupted state. It was never meant to be repeated like a mantra or practiced endlessly. It was a once-only chant, performed when a seeker reached the right state of presence, the 0 point within. This is where reverence becomes essential, because the power of Ra is not in the letters, nor in the mechanics of the voice. It is in the place you sing it from. When it rises from the chest like heat, when it resonates through the bones rather than just the tongue. You are not the one producing the sound is producing you. That is why the Hermetic masters said, the one who sings Ra once with a clean heart never needs to sing it again. The field remembers. Curiously, this teaching was not isolated. Across civilizations that never met in recorded history, echoes of the same truth appear. In Egypt, the sun was personified as Ra, not merely as a deity of light, but as the vibration of renewal. In the Himalayas, initiates guarded their once-in-a-lifetime seed syllables, warning never to repeat them after the first activation. In Mesoamerican traditions, there are traces of rituals where one chant was seen as enough to bind a life to its true destiny. Différentes langues, different tongues, yet the same pattern, the sacredness of a single sound. Why once? Because repetition risks distortion. When the mind takes over, when ego tries to manipulate or force the outcome, the purity of the vibration bends. Instead of awakening the field, it begins to stir. Interference, like singing a note off key again and again until the harmony is lost. The teaching was not about quantity, it was about the precision of presence. One sound, born at the right axis of being, was enough to reorganize reality. Imagine lighting a flame in complete darkness. You do it once, and the room transforms. You don't need to keep striking the match. To repeat would be to risk extinguishing the very spark you lit. Ra is that flame. It is not a practice, it is a passage. Once you have crossed it, you carry its imprint for life. This is why reverence is the only posture that makes sense here. To approach Ra casually, to treat it like just another chant among thousands, is to miss its essence. It is not entertainment. It is not another tool on a shelf. It is a threshold, and once you step through, your frequency is never the same. So when you hear the words "do this once," know that they come from this lineage. They are not marketing, they are memory. Ra is the primordial sound that awakens your field, the sound that doesn't ask to be repeated, because once it has spoken through you, the rest of your life becomes the echo. After Ra, after the sacred sound has touched your field, there is a stillness that follows a silence more alive than any noise you've ever heard. The ancients called this the 0 point. It is not emptiness in the way we usually imagine silence. It is the womb of vibration, the place where all frequencies rest before they are born. To reach this space is to step outside of the mind's chatter, outside of the constant pressure to fix, achieve, or control. In the 0 point, the body loosens, the breath deepens, and the field remembers what it feels like to be free of interference. Sound only carries its true power when it rises from this silence. Without it, the chant is just air, just mechanics of the voice. But when the sound emerges from a heart resting in 0 point, it becomes something else entirely, a living arrow. And that arrow only flies because the bow is steady. As Thoth's teaching reminds us, the sound is the arrow, the state is the bow. The two cannot be separated. How do you enter this place? It isn't through force. It begins with something so simple, it feels impossible. Breathing, slow, coherent breath, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, sinking the body back into harmony. Each inhale gathers presence. Each exhale releases the demand for outcomes. The nervous system softens. The mind stops chasing. In that gap between effort and surrender, silence begins to open. The key is not to hunt for silence, but to allow it. The more you demand quiet, the louder the mind will resist. Instead, let the breath carry you into it. Let gravity pull the weight off your shoulders. Let the body know it has permission to rest. And then, almost without warning, you'll notice a shift. The space around you feels fuller, the air more charged, as if the room itself is listening. That is the field of silence. That is 0 point. It is here, and only here, that the primordial sound becomes what it was meant to be. Because Ra is not a word you recite, it is a vibration sung by the field, and the field can only sing when you've stepped into this living stillness. For many, this may be the most healing part of the journey. In a world that glorifies noise and constant movement, entering silence feels radical. But this silence is not absence. It is restoration. It is the ground of all energy. The reset button for a nervous system worn down by survival. Step into it, and you'll realize why the ancients valued silence as highly as they did sound. One without the other cannot exist. The arrow and the bow, the sound and the silence, action and stillness woven together. This is the mystery of 0 point, and once you've entered it, you carry its medicine wherever you go. One of the questions that lingers in almost every seeker's heart is simple, yet haunting. How do I know this is real? How do I know I didn't just imagine it? Doubt is natural. In fact, the moment after an activation is often the moment the mind rushes in to claim control again, whispering, maybe nothing really happened. But the truth is, your body already knows. The field has already spoken, and there are signs clear, physical, undeniable signs that your vibration has shifted. The first is heat. Not the kind of heat that comes from exercise or anxiety, but a wave rising in the chest, as if a small sun has been lit inside you. Many describe it as warmth expanding through the ribcage, a fire without pain, a glow that fills rather than burns. The second is the shiver of goosebumps, often arriving before your mind even processes what's happening. It is the body's way of saying, this frequency is real, this is not fantasy. The skin registers truth even faster than the brain. The third is the release in the muscles. Shoulders soften, the jaw unclenches, the belly stops bracing. You may not even realize how much tension you carried until it slips away in an instant. This is the nervous system stepping out of survival mode, a quiet return to safety. The fourth is the sense of space. As though the edges of your body have blurred, you no longer feel contained within skin and bone. You feel connected to the room, the sky, the field around you. Some call it expansion, others call it merging, but the essence is the same. Separation dissolves. The fifth sign reveals itself in the rhythm of the chakras. You don't force them open or visualize them spinning. Instead, they realign themselves, like a row of instruments, tuning to the same key. Without effort, the energy centers adjust to the new vibration, harmonizing on their own. The sixth is time distortion. Minutes feel like seconds, or seconds stretch into eternity. The linear tick of the clock no longer matches your inner state. You've slipped into what mystics called kairos, the eternal now. And finally, the seventh, a subtle certainty. It's not loud, not dramatic, but it rests like a stone at the bottom of a river. Deep down, beneath the chatter of the mind, there is a knowing. You don't argue with it. You don't need to prove it. You simply feel, I touched something real. This checklist of 7 signs is not meant to box you in, but to reassure you. If you've wondered whether you imagined it, let your body answer. The mind may doubt, but the field doesn't lie. And once you've felt even 1 or 2 of these markers, you can no longer return to the old certainty that nothing happened, because something did, something alive. So when doubt comes, as it inevitably will, remember, you don't have to argue with it. Just breathe. Recall the heat, the shiver, the release, the expansion. Let the body testify to what the mind struggles to grasp. That is how you know it's real. The moment of activation is not the end of the journey. It's the spark. And anyone who has ever lit a flame in the wind knows what comes next. The test of whether it can last. After the first experience of RA, after your field reorganizes, the vibration is like a newborn fire, bright, delicate, easily disturbed. The next 72 hours are the most important. This window decides whether the shift becomes sealed into your field or slips back into the old programming. Think of it this way. Your nervous system just rewrote its settings, but the environment you live in, the words you speak, the habits you've carried for years, they're still waiting, like gravity, to pull you down again. That's why the ancients spoke of vigilance after initiation. Not fear, not paranoia, but responsibility. You have to tend the flame until it learns to burn on its own. So how do you do that? You follow a simple protocol, clear, practical steps that protect the new vibration while it stabilizes. First, breathing. 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. This is called coherence breathing. It brings the heart and lungs into rhythm, which calms the autonomic nervous system. Just a few minutes, morning and night, is enough to signal to the body. Stay in harmony, not survival. Second, silence. Not hours of meditation, but 3 minutes, 3 times a day. True silence, where you stop input, stop reacting, and simply let the field breathe you. This micro-silence is like pouring oil on the wick of the flame. It doesn't take long, but it keeps the fire alive. Third, word, hygiene. The sounds you release in these 72 hours matter more than you realize. Complaints, criticism, casual negativity, they slice into the field and weaken it. Instead, speak slowly, carefully, or not at all. Choose words that align with the vibration you want to hold. Remember, sound shapes reality. Fourth, grounding. Step outside. Put your feet on the earth, your back against a tree, your face into sunlight. Nature stabilizes what technology and noise destabilize. Just 15 minutes of contact with the natural field resets your body to coherence. If you ignore these practices, the risk is real. The flame dims, the environment reclaims its hold. Old words, old habits, old frequencies sneak back in, and you wonder if the activation ever happened at all. That is why responsibility is the emotion of this phase, not fear, but awareness. You've been given a seed, and what you do now determines whether it takes root. So guard these 3 days like sacred ground. Breathe with coherence. Enter silence in small doses. Watch your words as if they were spells. Touch the earth as if it were medicine. In 72 hours, the field learns to hold itself. And when that happens, the vibration is no longer fragile. It is yours. No matter how strong your activation feels, holding a high vibration alone is one of the hardest things a human can do. The world around you is constantly pressing down, pulling you back toward the familiar codes of stress, doubt, and noise. This is why the ancients never practiced in isolation for long. They gathered, they sang, they created what we now call the collective field. At first, it might sound mystical, but there's a very practical truth behind it. Physics and biology both recognize the phenomenon of entrainment, the natural tendency of oscillating systems to fall into rhythm with one another. Place two pendulums on the same wall, and over time, they'll swing in unison. Sit beside someone breathing slowly, and your body unconsciously begins to match their rhythm. Our energy fields are no different. When one person holds a high vibration with consistency, the people near them begin to rise to it. When many people hold it together, the effect multiplies. This is energetic entrainment. It isn't imagination, it's a natural law, and it explains why you feel lighter in certain communities, calmer in some gatherings, and drained in others. You're not just socializing, you're synchronizing. The power of this synchronization is enormous. Alone, your vibration can be challenged by the stress of work, the noise of neighbors, the chaos of daily life. But in a collective field, the high frequency becomes harder to break. It's like adding logs to a fire one might burn out, but together they generate a blaze that resists the wind. This is why ancient initiates performed chants together, why tribes gathered around fires, why monasteries prayed in unison. The collective field doesn't just preserve the flame, it magnifies it. And here's the invitation. You don't need a temple to experience it. Even now, across distance, a collective field can be built. When thousands of people comment, "I activated my frequency," it isn't only symbolic, it's a ritual of entrainment, a digital chorus syncing vibrations across the globe. The words form a rhythm, the rhythm becomes a field, and the field holds you when your individual flame flickers. This is why hope is the emotion here. You don't have to do it all on your own. You were never meant to. The path of activation is personal, but the path of sustaining and expanding has always been communal. Together, we multiply what alone we can only struggle to hold. So when you finish this video, join the ritual, write it, say it, feel it. I activated my frequency, not for the algorithm, not for applause, but for the entrainment that happens when thousands speak the same vibration at once. That is how the collective field is born. That is how we keep the fire alive. When the field finally stabilizes, when the flame you've tended no longer flickers in the wind, something extraordinary begins to happen. Life itself starts to bend around your vibration, not through prayer as begging, not through desperate affirmations, but through what the ancients called vibrational correspondence. Reality begins to answer the frequency you carry, not the words you speak. It shows up first in small ways, those synchronicities you can't explain away. You think of someone and the phone rings. You're wrestling with a question, and a line from a book or a stranger's comment gives you the exact answer. The timing is too sharp, too precise to dismiss as coincidence. It feels as though the universe has tuned its instruments to your note, and everything around you begins to play in harmony. Then come the opportunities. A door you never noticed swings open. A job offer appears when you thought there was no path forward. An unexpected conversation reveals a new direction. It feels less like you are chasing life, and more like life is leaning toward you, eager to meet the vibration you are holding. Time itself begins to behave differently. Hours in survival mode once dragged like chains, but now whole days seem to collapse into moments of flow. Or the opposite is a single minute stretch, giving you the clarity to make a decision you once would have rushed through. Mystics called this the reorganization of time, the collapsing and expanding of moments to match the rhythm of your field. And here is the wonder. You realize you are no longer forcing manifestation. You are no longer trying to bend reality with willpower. Instead, you've become magnetic, The field you carry does the work for you. Just as cymatics arranges particles into sacred geometry, your stabilized vibration arranges circumstances into coherence. This is not magic in the sense of tricks. It is magic in the original sense. Reality, responding to resonance. Your frequency is the prayer. Your presence is the ritual. And the synchronicity, the opportunities, the perfect timing, they are simply the echoes of your vibration returning to you. This is why manifestation fails for so many. They speak words of abundance while carrying fields of fear. They chase love while vibrating loneliness. They try to manifest health while repeating stories of sickness. The field listens to vibration, not language. And when your vibration stabilizes after activation, reality finally hears the true frequency beneath your words. So when you notice the signs, an old friend reaching out, a debt unexpectedly resolved, to a chance meeting that changes your direction, don't dismiss them. See them as proof that the correspondence is working. See them as evidence that your field has become a magnet, drawing coherence out of chaos. This is the wonder of manifestation at the vibrational level. You don't chase, you attract. You don't force, you align. And in that alignment, life ceases to feel like a battle. It becomes a dance, a synchronicity, a living field, answering back to the frequency you finally remembered how to carry. The journey does not end with a single activation. What began with one sound, what unfolded through silence and signs and synchronicities, now asks to be sealed. You've touched your original frequency. You've felt the warmth, the release, the certainty that it was real. But to live from that place requires a choice, a vow, almost to embody it not just once, but every day forward. Sealing the frequency means anchoring it in presence. It means remembering, especially when the world tries to pull you back into noise, that you are not the old program anymore. You are the sound, you are the vibration, and every breath, every word, every silence can either carry you deeper into that truth or loosen your grip on it. This is where community becomes the seal. Alone, the flame can still flicker. Together, it becomes a fire no wind can touch. That is why I invite you now to join the ritual. Declare it out loud. Write it below. Let it echo through this collective field. I activated my original frequency, not as a slogan, not as a performance, but as a living seal, a chorus of thousands, turning a fragile spark into something indestructible. And if you're ready to take the next step, stay with me. The next video will walk you through the 72-hour seal plan, the most critical window to protect and stabilize what you've awakened. Or, if your struggle is with a noisy environment, with chaos pressing into your home and body, then watch Home Vibration Shield and learn how to defend the field you've worked so hard to restore. The sound has already spoken through you. Now it's time to live as the sound. Seal it, carry it, become it.